Welcome to this PowerPoint presentation about how seating arrangements influence communication. I think many of us are unaware of how much our immediate physical environment has an effect on our ability to uh, interact with those people that are with us at the time. In this presentation, we're going to talk about how different types of seating make some types of interactions easier or more difficult. So let me start by talking about the difference between sociofugal and sociopital seating. Sociofugal seating is seating that is designed to keep people apart. It's the kind of seating arrangement you want in a situation where you're with strangers and you don't want to be interacting with each other. So, if you're at an airport, you are sitting side by side or back to back with people, and interacting with them should be difficult. Or if you're in a doctor's office or um, in any other kind of public place, a shopping mall, all of these would be sociofugal situations. Sociopital seating arrangements, on the other hand, are ones that bring people together. They have people facing each other, they're not too far away from each other. Let me give you some examples of this in the next slides. This photograph gives you a good example of sociopital seating. You've got small tables with a lot of chairs around them so that people sitting in these chairs are going to be very close to each other and in an almost face-to-face situation. So communication with these other people should be very easy. And as a matter of fact, it would be very awkward to not be interacting with people that you're sitting with at one of these tables. Here are some other examples of sociopital seating arrangements where just by being in the chair that you're sitting in, if there are other people there, it's going to be very easy for you to interact with them. Now, on the other hand, let's take a look at some sociofugal seating arrangements. These seats in a park are very sociofugal. You're sitting just by yourself. There's no way anybody can sit right next to you. The other seats are far away and facing in the same direction. So interaction between people in those seats is going to be quite difficult. In this slide, you've got a sociofugal seating arrangement on the left. And on the right side, you can see two different types of seating, sociofugal and sociopital. Take a look at the coffee shop there on the right. You'll see that very long table with the benches, which is very much a sociofugal space, is empty. But the sociopital seating arrangements, the small tables that are circular, are full of people. So people clearly are favoring the one kind of situation over the other. So if you go to the coffee shop and you're with anyone else, you're not going to want to sit at this long table. On the other hand, if you're there by yourself and you're not looking to interact with anyone, this is a place you might be more comfortable sitting. And the way we're located in space at a table also has an impact on what happens during meetings. And let's face it, a lot of business take place at these long rectangular, or in this case, an oval-shaped table. What you typically find in a situation like this is that the person seated at the head of the table, in this case, in the place that's labeled B1, automatically has an advantage. This person is more likely to be perceived as the leader. They're going to talk more. People's attention is going to be focused on the person at the head of the table. The next most powerful position to be in would be in one of the seats that's right next to the head of the table. So in this case, seat A or seat B3. Now, seat B4, kind of down there in the middle of the table, would be a very low power position here. This person is not going to be perceived as a leader. It's going to be more difficult for them to speak up and be noticed. People's attention won't naturally be turning toward them. Now, part of what happens in business meetings happens because people choose where they want to be. People who want to be leaders and who want to be influential will seize the head of the table position, like B1. People who want to slink into the background and not be noticed very much might choose to sit at seat B4. I know for myself this is a very real thing. I go to a lot of meetings, and there are some meetings where I really am concerned about what's going to happen. I have something to say. I want to be influential. In this case, I will often choose a seat at the head of the table or very near to it so that I can have as much influence as possible in the discussion that's going to happen. Probably more commonly, though, I'm showing up for a meeting that I'm not too excited about being at. I don't want to have to say or do much, and I will often try to hide in the middle of the crowd, like at position B4 in this picture. So people gravitate towards positions that will be consistent with how they want to behave in the meeting. But studies show that even if you randomly assign people to seats, they don't have any choice over where they sit. The person at the head of the table ends up talking more and is more likely to be perceived as a leader by the other members of the group because their attention naturally gets focused on that person. So in any of these rectangular table situations, being at one end of the table or the other gives a person an advantage if the person is seeking an advantage in that situation. And even when you're in a situation with just one other person, the type of activity that's going to take place there often influences the way you use physical space and how you choose to position yourself relative to the other person. For example, if you bring a couple of people into a psychology experiment and you tell them they're going to be competing with the other person in that study, and then they go into the laboratory, they most frequently will choose to sit in the situation you see in the upper left-hand corner here, where A and B3 are facing each other directly across the table. On the other hand, if you tell people that they're going to be cooperating, they're going to be working together on some kind of task, you will see them select the side-by-side seating, most frequently, that you see in the upper right-hand corner, where A and B2 are sitting next to each other. If you tell people that they're just going to be having a conversation, that they aren't really going to be necessarily competing or cooperating or working on a task at all, the most preferred situation is they sit kind of across the corner from each other, like you see with A and B1. Now, there's a lot of variability here. People don't always pick these exact positions, but they're the most frequent ones that you find. So people are positioning themselves to facilitate whatever kind of activity they think is going to happen there. Now, I don't want to make too much out of this, but researchers have also noticed an interesting thing. If you don't tell people anything at all about what's going to happen, you just tell them to go in and have a seat, males tend to most often pick the face-to-face across the table competitive seating arrangement. Females most often choose the side-by-side cooperative seating arrangement, almost as if the males are preparing to compete and the females are preparing to cooperate. Having said that, there's an awful lot of variability in where people choose to sit, and it doesn't always work out that way, but I did think it's an interesting thing to note. So we're very conscious of using physical space in a way that's consistent with the activity that we expect to engage in there. And I've been very interested in applying this to all kinds of other situations in my life. One of my favorite examples is from a dean that is removed a couple of deans ago here at Knox College. The dean had a very large office, and he had 3 different seating areas. He had a very large, imposing desk with a couple of chairs on the other side of it where you could feel sort of intimidated by the person on the other side of the big desk. He had a small circular table with chairs around it in one side of the office. In another area of the office, he had 2 easy chairs kind of facing each other at a 45-degree angle, not very far apart. And whenever I got summoned over to the dean's office, and the reason I was going there wasn't clear, I was keenly interested in where he would ask me to sit. If he asked me to sit in one of the chairs right in front of the great big desk and he sat on the other side, I knew I was in trouble. He was going to speak to me about something unpleasant, or he wanted me to change something that I've been doing, whatever it might be. On the other hand, if he asked me to sit at the little round table surrounded by chairs, I knew that we were going to be working on something together. He would probably be showing me something, we'd be discussing some kind of materials. If he asked me to sit in one of the two easy chairs, however, I knew he was going to be asking me for a favor. And so he was strategically using these different interaction areas in the office to communicate with me in whatever manner he felt he needed to at that time.